All right. So I'm doing this one a day early because I have to go to work early, and I'm going to learn how to do Facebook. You StreamYard correctly when I can basically know how to do my show early and then set it for and set it to air later on. But I am not, for whatever reason, I'm rather computer ignorant, so I'm not ready for that yet. But this morning, so it's still the 9th. Tomorrow will be the 10th. This morning we had a really good show with Debbie and Howard and Darren. Very positive vibes there. Really, really, really positive. And he is asking for the link. He wants a link. So Donning Armor, haven't heard from him in a while. He might be a little bit pissed off at me, but he's asking for the link. Here you go, Donning. Here is a link. If you'd like one, you are absolutely welcome to come on and voice your opinion. I did hear you, by the way, on the Hake Report. It was rather interesting. So if you're interested in coming on, I gave some of my knowledge about movies, and Debbie brought that out of me, my love of cinema. And America, by the way, has has a film history and a film past. And this is where America is where movies really came about, and our culture and stuff. And I'm seeing our culture really change, and people are defaming our culture. And it's really kind of sad. We have Donning. Donning, how are you?
I'm doing very well. How you doing, brother?
That's good. That's good. I heard a little bit of you on the Hake Report. Do you care to elaborate on that just a little bit?
Yeah, there's extremists on both sides of the aisle. James Hake placates to the right, and if you want the left, then you could listen to any mainstream media. And I think both of them are morons. I think we'd all be better off without them. And I'm not angry at you, per se, Brian. I am frustrated at times with how you run your show, but it's your show. And James Hake's show is his show. And I'll say exactly here what I said on Hake's show. I think that most of your viewers are morons. I think most of Hake's viewers are morons, and I think most of your viewers are morons. And I'm a moron, and it takes one to know one. Mike free.
You know what? I am also a bit of a moron, and you know what? There is a frustration with regards to this there is a cultural war going on in this country, and the establishment and the elites have definitely picked a side. And I just wanted to play this video clip real quick. And I'm not gonna play the whole thing and the commentary on it, but I will. Let me just play this real quick.
Black people, colors only. I got a question. So you ever standing in public, right? You're standing in public and you see white people. Do you ever get the urge to just, No, I don't ever.
Okay. I wonder, James, if you would have a comment on that video.
I certainly do have a comment on that video. I think that part of that is just natural instinct. It's just baser human instinct. As I've always said, everyone, regardless of their race or ethnicity, they work better with themselves than they do with others. The more they call it multiculturalism, diversity, which is anything but what they call it.
Black people colors.
Yeah.
It's okay. That causes conflict. Now, what exacerbates that conflict are the far right mainstream media that are constantly, you're a movie guy. I'm not really, but How many movies about the Holocaust has there been? How many times have we been told? How many times has the white man played the villain? How often is race 12 Years a Slave and all these other flicks, Django Unchained, where white people are the bad guys and black people are oppressed? That exacerbates the issue. But I do think on a fundamental scale that that we just simply we trust our own more than we trust others. This video exemplifies that. I think that's clear for everybody to see. If I'm white, I walk down a black neighborhood, I'm a little bit more on guard. If I walk down a white neighborhood, I feel a little bit safer. I think everybody experiences that. If JP walked down a Jewish neighborhood with the the rabbis and everybody in the streets with the curly cues going down the sides of their head, he would feel safer in that environment. And he's not wrong to do so. Just as I'm not wrong to want to be with my people, JP's not wrong to be with his, and blacks aren't wrong to be with theirs. Mike Free.
You know what? I see what you're saying. And there is a difficult thing right now, and you're right. And the thing of it is, the culture does not make it does not make for true in any kind of togetherness. Allowing this to be on TikTok while censoring other types of things, and the movies that are made today typically defame whites. They defame our the history of our nation. 12 years of slave. I just, there seems to be some evidence. I don't know how strong it is that is not even a true story, and that it was plagiarized. History Debunked has a thing on it that has a view that is plagiarized. Now there is very strong evidence that the book Roots by Alex Haley was plagiarized. So there are many things out there that are false narratives, but America has always played to a degree to a false narrative, and a lot of times there is a lot of over dramatization in this country. I like to watch people's video reaction and movie reactions. And there is a movie, Remember the Titans. And it's a movie about high school football in the South in 1970. And it shows the whites being, really kind of racist and this and that. And there's a scene in there where he confronts the coach and tells him how it's going to be. And people from the South, many of them were very respectful to authority. And they were, they had people in the military, and they had, the military was already integrated, and they had the military had black drill sergeants at that time. So I doubt something like that would have happened, but it's there for dramatic purposes, and it's not a real slice of life. And one of the things we're not seeing, we've very few films, in my opinion, show an exact and true slice of life the way things really are. Joe, you are joining us. Do you have anything to add if you walk down a Jewish community with go ahead.
First of all, I've never been afraid on any street I've ever walked on. What a complete load of garbage. I expect nothing less from your guest here, donning armor, who is always full of vitriol and highly concentrated bull manure. He is a BS artist. He's full of crap. And I have never crossed the street if a black man was oncoming or or anything like that. To be honest, I'd probably be more in fear of walking up on a gang of trilateral committee members, which are all predominantly white.
All right, may I respond to that?
Absolutely.
Okay, JP. Well, here's your cordial invitation to come down here to the IE. Come on down to the Inland Empire, and I'll take you down some streets. I'll drop you off at one end, because I ain't walking down them, and you could just have to walk through those neighborhoods. I'll pick you up at the gas station at the other side of town, and you can tell me after you're done if you're still alive.
Not only will I be alive, but I will come back guaranteed with at least one new friend. That's how full of crap you are.
I will drop you off in Murderville, and I will pick you up at the gas station, the Shell gas station at the other end of town, and you might have a new friend, and you'll have a few stab wounds too. You've never been down those streets, so you live a privileged life, so you know nothing of diversity.
I have spent plenty of time in the Inland Empire. In fact, when I was 18, 19, I had a mullet. So I know all about the Inland Empire.
Don't give me that nonsense. I had a mullet, so look at me, wee hee. That's a bunch of nonsense. There were streets that I don't walk down because they'd say white boy, and I would be attacked, and I have to defend myself. I've had my life threatened. What have you had done? Well, you had a mullet at one time, so you know about race relations? Give me a break.
I've taught in the inner cities. I've taught at some of the toughest inner city schools in Los Angeles, from stretching all the way from Long Beach all the way across the Los Angeles basin. I've worked at Grape Street, which has its own fun gang. I've worked in 5 juvenile detention centers. I did almost get attacked at one of those, but that, I guess, is to be expected. There's a lot of frustration at a juvenile hall. And it was not race related, in fact. But yeah, that's the fact. I've never walked down any street. I've never walked down any street in fear. I can honestly say that. Not in the way that you're saying it. Absolutely not. I'd be more scared to walk down a street of militia, maybe armed military forces coming down the street. That would frighten me.
Let's just throw it out there. Would you be more willing to walk down a back alley at night with a bunch of black people, or a dark alley at night with a bunch of Jewish people, or a dark alley at night with a bunch of white people? Which would you choose?
I've skateboarded down many dark alleyways, I'm sad to say, and I've never had any problems. But yeah, I mean, stay out of alleys. I don't know. People that are in alleyways at night are probably up to no good. So I don't do dumb shit.
So alleyways are racist. Do you hear that, Brian? It's the alleyways that we have to worry about. No, the fact of the matter is the black.
If I can play the devil's advocate here, I mean, I think both have some valid points here. I will say, as an adolescent, I certainly felt, very aware of my ethnicity and race, and didn't get the same respect as an adult. So I would never want, if I had a child, I would never want them to be a minority. And I think today whites are defamed, and they are. Joey? Did you see the video before that I played before I
No, I missed it.
I'm going to play it again for you, Joey. I just want to get your response out of that.
Black people, colors only. I got a question. So you ever standing in public, right? You stand in public and you see white people. Do you ever get the urge to just, no?
Was that it right there? Like, you just like walk up and bitch slap a white person? Yeah, no, I've never seen this actually play out in reality. I'm sure it, there's some instances. There may be some YouTube videos out there.
Well, I mean, you and I both had Colin Flaherty on on our on both our radio show and on our. It is a thing. White on black, black on white, racial hostility is a reality, and it is a thing. How prevalent is it? Remains to be seen. But the one thing is that the establishment does not want to talk about it. That is one truth. Now, we do have, I believe, Dennis. He is on. Dennis?
Yes,
Dennis?
sir.
How are you, sir? How's the snow out there?
It's melting, thankfully.
Good. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a question, right? In regards to this race thing you guys talk about all the time, right?
Okay.
And right, and like whites are becoming a minority. This is we know. All right, we're being basically assimilated because there's.
Is that a good thing?
Just a moment, please. I never finished. Is where that black and white relationships where that you have like mulattoes and you got all these multi-race babies and they're kind of like cream color. They're not black, they're not white, right? Whatever. You got Asians having sex with whiteies, and where do the whiteies go? No, we're a minority. All right. So what's the problem? Okay. It's like, Black Lives Matter, this, that, the other thing. And we got White Lives Matter movements, whatever. I think that was called the KKK, I think, a long time ago. Oh, no, they still have.
What are you smoking?
Yet, right?
Dennis, you're meandering, buddy. Come on, Jesus Christ.
I'm just saying, what's the issue with race? What is the problem here?
Okay, is that your question? Okay.
Yeah, that's the question, Donnie. What's your problem?
Donnie, do you want to respond to that?
I don't know where he lives, and I don't even know what his question was. To be honest with you, it seems that he's never experienced what it's like to be a minority wherever he lives. Now, I've experienced what it's like to be a minority. There are more Hispanics than there are white people where I live.
Are you
afraid? There are certain streets that I walk down that I'm not welcomed on, simply based on my skin color. As Jim Goad said, your skin color is a gang tattoo, whether you like it to be or not. It's true in school. As I said, I had race riots when I was 13 years old. And it was
okay. Well, that's good. That's good
no,
that you experienced that.
It's not good.
No,
we don't want race riots in our schools.
But why do you have a problem with it? Like you got to live with it. You got to acknowledge that fact.
So
that
I need to accept the fact that white people will become a hated minority, and we will be driven out of our own lands.
We already know this,
and that's a good thing.
I never said it was.
Is it a bad thing?
It's not a good thing.
Is it a bad thing?
It's not a good thing. This is what it is. What are you going to do about it? You're going to stand up on a soapbox every fucking day?
Yes.
And try
here
to
I am.
The mentality of people?
I'm on my soapbox right now. Here I am.
Yeah.
Here I am. And I'm telling you right now, it's not a good thing.
Right. I said that too. I just said that. It's not good. You asked me if it was good. I said, no, it's not.
I asked you if it was good or bad, and you said it's not good. So what is it?
It's a bad thing. If it's not good, it's bad. Duh.
Okay.
Do the math.
All right. So I invite you and JP to come down here to the IE, and I will run you guys through Samba. I'll run you through. No, all I'll do. Look, I'm telling you right now, dude. I've got a bed for you. You can come over, sleep at my place. I'll make you a good breakfast. You'll be taken care of. And then when sunset comes along, I'll take you down to Murderville. I'll take you down to San Bernardino. And I'll drop you off at one side of the town, and you could walk through that town. And if you make it alive, then you can tell me that it's not that bad. Because I've experienced it.
No, listen, Donning. I tell you, I made a lot of friends too. I met a lot of friends on the way. Okay,
hey, I'll post an image of my friends, dude. They're all Mexicans, but I still maintain the fact that races work better by themselves.
That's good. I got a lot of black friends. I got a lot of Hispanics. I got a lot of, Egyptian friends, Islamic friends. I got a lot of friends that are different
Are there
ethnicities.
Let me ask you this: are there Latinos where you live, near where you live, Dennis?
Yeah, they're everywhere.
I didn't know that. I didn't think that they were that numerous, but I certainly could be wrong. Um,
Yeah, well,
now,
they're
now,
everywhere.
now, Donning, you were on the Hake report, and from what I gather, you were saying that he basically puts on the people with the far right, and a lot of them have, far out conspiracy theories. And I don't know if that's true. And I always admire Hake's demeanor and the fact that he's able to control his anger and upset, and not getting upset like a lot of other radio, like a lot of other podcasters do. And as a person that admires stoicism, it's something that I admire about him. Even if I don't always agree with him, I'm not a Christian, although I have certain Christian beliefs. I do admire uh, what Hake brings to the table.
Yeah, you know what? Hate. Okay, that's a bad word. Hate.
Hake. There's a show called The Hake
Oh,
Report. I don't think you
Hague.
watched it,
Oh, the Hague report. Yeah, I've heard about that
but
place.
I'm sorry, Dennis. My address was to Donning.
Yeah, no, I apologize.
All right, let Donning.
Sorry, may I speak? Am I?
You're
Hello?
not on mute. No, I haven't muted you.
Okay, no problem. Um, yeah, and I have this disagreement with you as well, Brian, is that you seem to subscribe to this stoicism. The world is punishment, suffering is good, and we should embrace it. It makes you stronger. There is truth in that. However, as I said on the Hake Report, placating to far right extremists or far left extremists is a bad thing. These people are a problem. They're morons. They're absolute idiots. And we should not abide by them. We should not allow them to muddy the waters. And that's what they do, is they muddy the waters. So James Hake, and he lied about it. He knows exactly what I was talking about when I said that they believe 5G is, I don't know, Bill Gates, a Jew trying to infiltrate their brains. He believes that the vaccinations might be poison. Let incels or MGTOWs uh, are a relevant cast. Let their ideas, like men going their own way. What are men going their own way going to do to help prosper white culture? These are all lies. And then we can get even crazier with the flat earthers, with the gray aliens, with the Illuminati, so on and so forth. These people tend to be on the right, and they're morons. They're toxic. We should avoid them. We should shout them down and say, you know what, you're not part of our group. I got nothing to do with you. What I'm very, very simple. Let every ethnic group in the world, depending on your religious creed, your ethnic creed, it doesn't matter. They work better with themselves. There's a higher level societal trust. And they work better with themselves. Those communities prosper. As we see in the developing world, those communities work better. This multiculturalism, where we forcefully integrate different people of different backgrounds and different genetics, different makeups, different races, that causes strife. And I've always maintained this position. And I'm always seen, because I'm a white man. If I was a black man, I bet you that Dennis guy would be agreeing with me. But he doesn't agree with me. Neither does JP. They don't agree with me. But yet, JP himself said he's never experienced a time in his life where he's had to deal with this forced integration. I have, bro. I have. From the age of, I don't know, 9, I've had to deal with it. I've had race riots in my middle school. These guys have never had any problem. They've never had any issue. And I surmise, I think they've probably lived a nice, comfortable life in a majority white nation or a majority white nation. I didn't. I grew up where I was a minority by the time I was 14 years old. So the more it goes on, the worse it's going to get. And they will figure it out sooner or later. But right now, I'm trying to speak truth to them, and all they see it as is me being racist against other people. That's the best thing that you can do, is to shout down somebody as being a racist or a neo-Nazi or a bigot or whatever ugly word that they can muster. When in actuality, I'm saying, I think we all work better together. That includes white people, that includes black people, Native Americans, Asians, so on and so forth. I don't think that there's anything wrong with what I'm saying. If you do, well, then come down. Like I said, I will provide a nice breakfast. You have a bed to sleep in, a roof over your head. Everything's cool over here. And then we can drop you off in the cities. We can drop you off in Moreno Valley. We could drop you off in San Bernardino. We could drop you off in Lake Elsinore. And you could just walk through the community and see if you feel like you're protected. Mike Free.
I'll tell you something. I have been at times very angry, and I'm still angry at this culture, and you call it something different. I call it the cultural left, that does not even recognize your pain or my pain. They have no empathy for me. And I always look for that which has some empathy for me, and empathy should be a two-way street. And you should be able to see when people are abused and the potential for abuse. And I don't see that happening.
It's because they don't give a shit about us. Hollywood has taught everyone that white people bad. And you know what? These movies, as ridiculous as they are, Django Unchained and all these things, they demonize white folk. I can't tell you how many times that I have talked to white people and they tell me I'm a racist and white people don't have a culture. We don't have a history. And if we do have a history, it's Nazism. Now, I have nothing to do with the Nazis. My grandfather fought against the Nazis, but I'm called a Nazi because of the views that I hold. Like, do white people not have a place anywhere in the world? Should we all be chased off and go extinct because multiculturalism good? The darker your skin, the better you are? No. And it's pissing me off, man. I'm getting angry, but I'm not going to let loose. I don't condone violence of any kind. But what I'm saying is, if we do not acknowledge the problem of forced integration, we're going to find ourselves in a position where violence is going to proliferate. It's going to explode in popularity. It already is. We already see it all the time. The more that you mix people together, and it takes force to mix people together, the more violence you're going to see. I'm trying to avoid the violence. I want nothing but the best for everyone. Black, white, Asian, Indian, American, so on and so forth. I want the best for all of those people. But they're not sacrificing themselves for forced integration. These nations across the world that are non-white, have absolutely no problem, and they're never scoffed at or told that they're bad because Nigeria wants to remain Nigerian, Somalia wants to remain Somalia, Japan wants to remain Japanese. They're never criticized for it. Only white people are criticized for it. I grew up in a mixed community. I was the minority when I was growing up, and I got my ass beat many times, like I said. So it's just insufferable to listen to these. I hate to use the word privileged, but they're privileged. JP, Dennis, they're privileged, even though they don't know it. You're privileged to grow up in a white community. You're privileged to grow up in a community where you're not looked down upon. But the rest of us, we are. And I'm tired of being called a racist for it. Sorry, I'm getting angry again. Stoicism. Mike free.
Yeah, I hear you getting angry, and I hear that you're getting upset. At this point in time, the establishment will try to shut you down, and the establishment does hate you. And if you are a white person or a person of European descent, it seems like much of the establishment does hate and despise you, and it uses the word racist to stigmatize you, and that's only a word. Being called a racist is primarily a word that will stigmatize white people and people of European descent, and we're held up to higher standards. All other groups seem to be absolved of those moral standards and moral conduct, and that is a difficult thing. There have been more, but there have been difficult things in life, and people have been persecuted throughout life. And this kind of persecution, I personally do not experience it that much. I mean, there is a gentleman who's called me a racist twice just by passing me by, and he does so with such confidence, and it's an ego thing with him. He's an older black gentleman. I don't know who he is, but he does often call me a racist. And I ask him, "Where's your proof?" And they don't have to give you any proof. They just have to lobby those things against you. And it's only one group that is labeled that. It's only one group that is punished. All other groups are absolved of moral responsibility. And it's the belief is that we are all white people are privileged. And there's a thing out there. I believe there's a thing called race Marxism, and that's what has been put upon white people, not only in America, but I believe perhaps even throughout the Anglosphere. I would say the European diaspora, but I think I've heard this is primarily strong in the Anglosphere, where people speak English, and there's a large European population and a large minority population. This kind of ideology, this race Marxism, has come to the forefront, and there is a cultural war in this country, and not only in this country, but in the civilized world and within the Anglosphere. And I choose to fight it my way. You choose to fight it your way. You do not believe that there is any hope for a multiracial and multicultural society. I do, but I will not be abused by anybody. And I will try to stand up against my abuse. And if I'm going to be abused, I will leave and I will flee to where I am safe and where I am treated well.
You'll leave and you'll flee.
That is correct. I mean, sometimes I'll stand and fight, but I am under no obligation to stand and fight and lose. If I have a chance, of winning, go ahead.
I understand. And look, live to fight another day. That kind of principle. I get it. But how many times are you willing to leave and flee? before, are you willing to do it up until the point so there's nowhere to leave and flee to? I mean, do we not deserve sovereignty over our own nations? Those are white Anglo nations. Canada, the United States, Australia, Great Britain, uh, 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 United Kingdom. So, are are these not bastions? These are our lands. How much more fleeing do we need to do before it's going to hit a head eventually, isn't it? Eventually, we're going to be backed into a corner and then eradicated or strike out in violence. I'm trying to avoid those things by saying, look, regardless of your ethnicity, regardless of your race, you have a homeland and you deserve the right to sovereignty over your own homeland. I don't think that anything that I say is extreme, but because I'm white, if I came onto this podcast and you guys all thought that I was black, and I said the exact same things that I'm saying now, I don't think that I would get the backlash that I'm getting right now. And I can see it in the streets. I can see it. I've seen it throughout the course of my life that white people, they call it white flight. When other ethnicities and groups, races, move into a white community, the white people leave that community. Why do they leave that community? Because they want to be with their own. And that's called racist.
Well, they flee. They often flee because they're mistreated. And the truth is, um, a lot of minorities, they do not flee to the. They don't flee from this country. They flee to this country. And there's a lot of hypocrisy and there's a lot of gaslighting going on.
Why do white people not flee to their countries?
You know what? That's a good question. And that's something that should be debated, and we should have a debate of brutal honesty in this country. And that's something that we're not. That's one of the reasons I bring these topics up. It is something that the establishment does not want to debate, and they will. Not only will they not debate it, they will actively shut down discussion that they do not like. And you really saw it during the George. After the death of George Floyd, you saw a major deplatforming of a lot of YouTube channels that were so-called what they would call deemed white supremacist, and it's only deemed to white people. And yeah, I mean, and do we want to live in a society that treats us as less than, and do we want to live amongst people who will treat us as less than and do not have empathy for us? That's a good question. I think, again, in leftist societies, we're not treated well. But if you are, I mean, I would rather live in Thailand than I would in Watts or Compton or even East LA. We would be treated better. In the Philippines, we would be treated okay. So I believe that leftism does have something to do with it. And leftism promotes envy. You go ahead and you have the floor.
Is it okay if I just drop out really quick and come back because I'm getting the static thing that always happens with me? I don't know why it happens with my cell phone, but can I drop out and come back?
Real quick, and I'm gonna just go over a few things, and then when you come back, I will I'll just perhaps rehash what I've told you, and maybe you can listen while I'm talking, and I'm gonna just go on and talk about the same things that I talked about before. So go ahead and drop out and come back in.
Okay, I heard what you had to say, so I can just come back and I'll respond to it.
I'll probably bloviate on the same issue. As I said before, there are plenty of people, white people, people of European descent that go to Asian countries and are not mistreated in those countries and are treated fairly well. As a matter of fact, Howard, he has gone to an Asian country, and I don't. Perhaps even an African country may treat you better than a Black American country. So there is the thought that it is, to me, there is a point that leftism, that creates envy, and leftism has promoted race Marxism that has made the issue of racial integration and multiculturalism to be rather difficult, or multiracialism, because I think we have to have a unifying culture. But race Marxism has made that very difficult. And let me give you the floor, Donnie.
Okay, so I'm sorry about that. The fact of the matter is, it's not leftism necessarily. Leftism is a primary culprit. There's no doubt about it. And they are anti-white. And they work against white people wherever they can. White people bad. As I told you about Hollywood and the movies that they make, the nonsense that we see on our television sets, over and over again, white people are beaten down, we're trodden, and all the other races. To the extent where I know many white people don't even believe that there is such a thing as a white culture, and we're just raised to believe that everything that we have we stole from everybody else. Now that's nonsense, and I see it from the right as well. Would you get a lot of right-wing people that they're worshiping Vladimir Putin, right? As he's some kind of really alpha Chad boss figure that we should aspire to be. But he's he's taking the culture from Ukrainians. Don't Ukrainians have a right to live? I mean, it's so frustrating for me listening to these lily white bastards like come up in the chat room. And you know what? They've both left, haven't they? JP and Dennis have both left with their tail between their legs because they weren't willing to have an honest conversation. So they both ran away. I'm the one standing here saying, you know what? All people, regardless of their race or ethnicity, have a right to stand. They have a right to sovereignty. They have a right to govern their own people however they wish. Afghans, Nicaraguans, so on and so forth. They have a right to forge their own future, their own path. It might be for the better, it might be for the worst, but right now I see that white people are being downtrodden, that we're meant to just deal with it. And not only deal with it, we're meant to clap like seals and act as if this is a wonderful thing, that our countries are being taken over with diversity. Well, that's the death of diversity. The fact of the matter is, when I travel, and I have traveled, when I travel and I go to another nation, I expect to see their culture. I expect to experience their food, the way that they work. That's true diversity. What these people want is the extinction of the white race. Mike Free.
I don't think that there is going to be an extinction of the white race. But again, I understand your sentiments, and some of them I agree with. And there are people that give me hell for agreeing with them, but I'm very aware of the establishment culture's hatred of people of European descent.
How do you? I apologize, but how do you think that there's not going to be an extinction of the white race when we're traced out of our own homelands? Now, I grew up in Southern California. You're in Southern California.
Yes.
Within your lifetime, has diversity shown you that we're being replaced? Has it not? Now, in England, they have schools that are completely 100% non-white. The London and there's various other Bradford, where my father grew up. That is a Muslim state. that is inside of the United Kingdom. It's inside of England. London is, it's not white. It's not London anymore. You go to London now, and there's nothing about it that expresses the values, the the biospirit of British people, of English people. It doesn't exist anymore. And if you come to Southern California, we both know, because you live here, that when we travel down the streets, does it look like Southern California? Does it look like what our ancestors envisioned for our state? No. And this is across the entire country. I, it's how many people can you bring in before you're washed out? They call it whitewashing, but I'll call it brown washing or black washing. The Western world is being brown and blackwashed, and this is not a good thing. I wouldn't expect millions of white people to flood a black nation like the Congo or something and turn it into a white nation. I would not be for that. So why am I going to be for Congolese or blacks, Kenyans or whatever coming to our nations in such great numbers where they drown us out? I'm not for any of it. We work better separately but equal. If we want to have trades, if we want to get along with one another, that's fine. But that's not the way that it works in reality. How it works is Arabs, Muslims, they see themselves as a distinct group of people, and they're pushing their agenda through all kinds of means. They rewrite our history books. They teach our children. They profess Islam. They profess their culture. They push it out there. They build mosques. They're growing, while white people are just expected to shrink back. How far can we shrink back until we are nothing? That doesn't make sense to me, and I don't want to see a world where white people don't exist.
I don't know necessarily how to. I'm not here to change your opinion on that. And the truth is, in California, white people of European descent, of Western European descent, are becoming a minority. And we are a hated minority. I don't know, if I mind being a minority. Listen, I certainly have a preference not to be a minority, but if I'm going to be a minority, I don't want to be hated. And I want to be treated fairly and with as much equitable treatment as humanly possible. And I don't know what I can do to change the outcome and change an outcome for my desire. But again, I see the things that groups are allowed to get away with that other minority, for example, when we showed that video, if a white person had done that to any group, that they would where she was threatening them, they would never get away with that. And the online establishment, they allow this to happen. And at this time, being a minority is kind of frightening because the establishment allows things to happen. And again, what I saw in 2020 put a chip on my shoulder. And I don't want to agree with you as much as I do, Donnie. But I also see the point, like, if you're not going to treat me well, then I would have to go away from people and be treated with respect and dignity as a human being. I would just have a strong desire for that. I don't want to be mistreated, and I don't want to be told that my ancestors are filth, are garbage, are evil people, just as they wouldn't want that done to them. And I'm going to let you have. I'm going to let you say a few things, and then I'm going to have the last word to end out our show. And Donnie, by the way, I do hope that you get your YouTube channel up and going again, and just giving your points of view on things, because I think you have a really good voice, and you do have a unique perspective, whether I agree with it or not. The same thing with James Hake. I don't agree with everything that he says, but I watch him as a person who really, in my opinion, handles people and callers and things like that, and he has strong convictions on what he believes. So, Donnie, I leave. I'll give you the floor, and you can, and then I'll end the show. I'll have the last word in the show.
Okay, well, I'll start it out on a negative. You said like you don't necessarily want to believe what I believe in, but you do see the facts. You do see what's happening, and it's anti-whiteism. Um, I do not want to live in a world where any ethnic group or any racial group is pushed to the brink of extinction. That is true diversity. And I I will fight for that. That is my end all be all. And white people are deserving of that. We have built the civilized world. We have created incredible civilizations. We have benefited humanity more so than any other race out there. This is not to say that white people are superior to anyone else. It is to say that white people have a place and they deserve their sovereign ethnic homelands. And I wish that not only for whites, regardless of their ethnicity, regardless of their nationality, I wish that for all people all over the world. And we should preserve them just as we preserve uh, the red fox versus the Russian fox, or the red-tailed deer versus the white-tailed deer, or any other life. We need to preserve these things. I think that it's important. I think that it matters. I think that it makes the world a beautiful place to have such diversity. And what the leftist woke culture uh, at this time is doing is saying that one race, one ethnicity, one group does not belong and they need to be wiped out. I'm tired of white flight. Uh, I'm tired of running away. I'm tired of apologizing for crimes that I never committed. White people have a place in this world just as much as anybody else. So stand up, white folk. Mike free.
Dawning, you've left quite a bit for me to digest. And again, you are very, your views at this point in time are very marginalized. And you stand the chance of being punished for your beliefs and for your views, rightly or wrongly. That is the case. I believe that America, the United States of America, is the only nation on the face of the earth that was formed by an ideal, not ethnicity, not religion, but an ideal. E pluribus unum, and in God we trust. Now, I'm kind of an agnostic atheist, but together we make one. And the values of America, there is a part of me that, maybe it's silly, but there's a part of me that believes that these American ideals can be shared by everyone, and those who don't want to share them, well, I want to separate from those people. And those who trace Marxism, I want to separate from those people. And even those who want to place white ethnicism to a degree, if I had a choice between a place where I'm demonized and a place where I'm not, I'm going to pick one of the. I'm going to pick that one. But at this point in time, I see that the American experiment, and I do hope that things can change within this nation, not only within this nation but also within Europe as well. There is a lot of things that have happened, and the woke left has a lot to answer to, and hopefully this next election they will have their feet put to the fire, and they will have to answer questions and be taken to task on a lot of different subjects and things of that nature. This has been Brian with Transparency and Merit. Like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, particularly if you disagree with what I or Donning said. If there's anything that I missed, please comment. I would love to hear from you. If not, that's fine too. Donning is always giving me respect, even though we may disagree. And I thank you for listening. Again, get on our Rumble page and also our website, transparencyandmerit.com, and also Twitter, Transparency and Merit at Twitter. Thank you so much for listening.